Hi there, my name's Meesh. Welcome to my free Facebook group and this introductory video where I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my story, and we're going to get into some of the things that we're going to talk about in the future guide videos as well. So let's get started. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia around about the age of 26, and as of today, I'm 39. So that was about 13-ish years ago. And when I was around and alive in the world at that time, I told people that I, was diagnosed with fibromyalgia because they needed to know, work needed to know, family needed to know, friends needed to know, because sometimes I just couldn't go to work. I didn't feel good. I was in pain, or I had a migraine, or I just couldn't do anything because of the pain and the emotions and all the things that were happening, right? So I had to say no to going to things and doing things with friends and family, right? But people would ask me, like, you're so young. Why do you have this chronic disease? Like, what's going on that you have this? Kind of like in disbelief, like they didn't believe me, right? So there's things that might have been happening to you, right, in your life. But here's what was happening in mine. So maybe you can relate. At that time, I was married. I believe that was also the time I was living in the basement of my then husband's parents' house. And I was surrounded by people that were pretty toxic, pretty narcissistic. I don't really like throwing that word around. I think it's also a buzzword. But as a mental health professional, I feel comfortable and confident using it in the right context. And I didn't feel safe like sharing my feelings. And emotions and what was going on in my life. I definitely didn't tell my family or parents, but when I had told my in-laws about what was going on in my marriage, it somehow got back to my husband at the time. And then I was berated and belittled and told, how could you do that? How could you talk about our personal life to other people? Blah, 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 blah. Right? Does that sound familiar to anybody? Anybody else going through that? When that happens and you bottle everything up and keep it inside, core issue there is safety. Like, I didn't feel safe in my own space, in the house that I was living in. So when the body holds all of that, we're going to get into that later on, it can cause and trigger a chronic disease. For me, it was fibromyalgia. So I went to the doctor, got on medications, did some yoga because he had asked me to start stretching and moving my body, which did help. The medication helped. I started to feel better. I started to feel a little bit more cheery, a little more happy. The yoga helped my body feel a little more calm because of all of the nerve pain and tension that was going on. But it didn't like fully make it go away, right? It was just still there, just kind of like dull and muted, kind of like below the surface. It was always a thing that I had to like worry about. So when it did go away was when I left him for good, right? There was no more toxicity surrounding me. There was no person that I had to like tiptoe around. I could just like be myself and talk to anybody about what was going on. And I didn't have to be afraid that it would somehow get back to somebody and I would be berated, right? So I went back to the doctor and talked about getting off the medication, and I did, weaned off of it, went through his protocol. And then when I went back and told him, I'm fine, I'm okay, I think we're pretty good. We both looked at each other, and I remember him saying, like, you do know why that happened, right? And he's like, we both were like, yeah, he was the cause. So people can be a cause for causing chronic illness. The people around you not feeling safe, right? So if you don't feel safe, that's one important reason to maybe pay attention to. So what I didn't realize was that it can come back, and doesn't have to be in the same way it came in the first place. So I got in not one, but two car accidents where I was rear-ended and suffered from pretty bad whiplash. So the first one, I was in treatment for like 10 months. And then the next one, it wasn't as severe because I had kept up with taking care of my body. But it's important for you to know too that any trauma can cause a return from what I would call remission of symptoms, right? This time, I didn't feel safe in my own body because of it. So it wasn't a person. It was like, oh my God, these things just are happening. And my body doesn't know what to do anymore. So I tried all the things. I went back to chiropractors. I went to physical therapy. I went to massage therapy. I tried Reiki, got into a whole Reiki program. Went back to yoga again. I went to the gym and exercise. I remember there would be days where my leg pain would be so bad, I would go to the gym and do a hard leg day to make the pain feel different. Not a good idea. I don't recommend doing that. I tried detoxing my body. They helped a bit, right? But they didn't make everything go away. They did not make it feel better. It was just kind of like, meh, it's a little bit of pain gone. Meh, here's a little bit of help, right? You might have also gone down this road too, trying to work with all of the different practitioners, all the different doctors, all of the different people that promise to fix you and fix your problems, right? The problem with this mentality is I wasn't broken. I didn't need to be fixed. And neither do you, because you're not broken. So the part with all of these practitioners is that they're not addressing the core issue. The core issue is not feeling safe or not feeling in control, right? I just talked about that. When for me this time it was the body, not being under someone else's thumb, right? So as a mental health therapist, I started to realize that nobody is addressing the most important part of chronic illness, which is mental health, right? This thing up here, the dome on top of the body, right? It actually controls everything. So once I started to journal on a consistent basis and do yoga on a consistent basis and utilize mantras and look at them and bring them into my space, into my energy, into the things that I wanted, right? And I started to experience them like for real. I started to exercise on a regular basis. Once I started doing all of those things, most especially adding the journaling part, right? I started to feel better physically. I started to feel lighter emotionally. And I started to notice that I was happier and more grateful for life, period. So what I have done is take all of these different modalities, all these different treatments and techniques and practices, from mindfulness to yoga to the super woo to Reiki and back to psychotherapy and mental health again. I've put them all together in one package, all right, in one linear program to follow. I've taken out all of the guesswork for you. There's no more deciding which of the healers and different modalities to try next. I've cut the fat and compiled them all. All you've got to do is follow it and do the work. Also, legally and ethically, I cannot promise I can cure you, but I can promise you will feel better for longer. So what you got to do now, just head on over to guide number 1 and get started. Drop any comments or questions below and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.